Hey everyone, we're Matt and Cheryl with We're in the Rockies, and on our channel we help you travel to the west. In this video, we're in southeast Utah, where you'll find some of the most breathtaking landscapes in the United States. With its towering red rock formations, deep canyons, and natural arches, this region is a must-see for any nature lover or outdoor enthusiast. Monument Valley and Arches National Park in Moab get all the attention, but in this video, we're going to explore some lesser known areas in between. We're going to see some Native American ruins, get to some spectacular overlooks, and go on a few scary drives. Okay, we're here at the edge of the Cedars State Park and Museum. This is in Blanding, Utah. Now we are in the greater Mesa Verde and Four Corners region. So they call this a lot of times the Grand Circle. Right now we're actually in Utah. This is a state park in Utah in Blanding. So this is actually really cool. I mean, we've been to a lot of Native American sites, and this is one of the cooler ones. Their museum here has a ton of artifacts and really well displayed. You're gonna see a lot of pottery and baskets and sandals and things like that. One interesting thing we learned is that they have found macaw feathers, bird feathers here in this area, and macaw coming from Mexico, so they know there was at least a trade routes. There was like trade routes extensive enough to go all the way down to present-day Mexico up here into Utah. So the Native Americans that lived here used to be called the Anasazi. Now it's proper to call them ancestral Puebloans, and they lived here around 1,000 to 1,200 years ago, something like that. So this is an actual house with a kiva here. You can climb down into the kiva, which is, you know, you climb down a little ladder into this little room underneath the ground there. They used to use it for gatherings, maybe to store food. They would light fires down there. They'd have, I guess they did a number of things, although of course we don't always really know what life was like for them. No written records, and so they just try to, you know, use their best guess based on the evidence that they have and all that. One thing they look at is the size of the homes and the size of the kivas and how many of them there are to try to determine how many people would have lived in this area. But this is really cool. So kind of Native American ruin country here. We're now going to go out into a place called Cedar Mesa. We're going to look for some more Native American ruins and sites and things like that. But if you are in Blanding, this is totally worth it. Just a beautiful little museum there, and then a real life you know, structure here with a kiva that you can climb down into it. Okay, up next is Bears Ears National Monument. So this is pretty close to Natural Bridges National Monument, and Bears Ears has been a fairly controversial national monument for a while, and so it's been in the news a lot. But it's kind of a mysterious thing. Like, how do you visit Bears Ears? It's not really developed at all like a lot of national parks or national monuments. Again, it's kind of one of these national monuments out here next to Cedar Mesa that is a little off the grid. It's run by the Bureau of Land Management, and they really don't make it easy on you to try to figure out what to do out here. So it's called Bears Ears because there are two buttes out here. So here's one butte behind me. The other butte is over there, and while you're standing here, it kind of looks like an ear of a bear. And you can also see this from Natural Bridges National Monument, which we did earlier. The drive to get here is a 6-mile dirt road that goes out, that climbs quite a bit of elevation. It's actually quite a beautiful drive. You can have just really long-ranging views. In fact, they said down there that you can see Bears Ears from Monument Valley and from Mesa Verde National Park. So these are high up, you can see them for a long ways, and when you're up here, this part of the nice thing about being up here is seeing the valley below. The ears are fine, you know, they're kind of buttes and they're kind of cool, but the views are really great. And then after you get up here, you can keep driving up on top of this plateau here, and the scenery changes completely. It almost goes from this desert sagebrush scenery to like a lush forest scenery up on top of the mesas. Okay, so the next thing to do is to visit some Native American ruins. Now these are all over the Four Corners area, again this greater Mesa Verde area. Now we are in actually a national monument called Cedar Mesa National Monument. This borders up with Bears Ears National Monument that has been in the news quite a bit in the last 5 or 10 years because it's been protected as a national monument and enlarged and decreased and stuff like that. So both of these kind of right in the same area here. And you know, one of the main reasons that they're protecting these areas is because of these Native American ruins that are spread all over the place. And they're kind of off the map, off the grid in a sense, in that they don't really want to give you a ton of information as to go see these places because they're concerned about people that are ruining these places. Now, the lady in Blanding told me that concern is overstated, but regardless, it's always a concern. And here, we have come to this little viewpoint here where we can see some ruins across the valley here. This is really cool. So they call them the cliff dwellers. These ancestral Puebloans lived in the cliffs. It's just astounding that they have these houses and kivas and fire pits and all that stuff up in these cliffs. It's just amazing, and they're actually often in really scenic areas. It's like even back then, you know, they picked out really great areas, really great scenic areas to live, just like people try to do today. Now, a lot of these, you know, you can hike up to them. You can actually hike up right to some of these and go in those ruins there. Obviously, you need to have etiquette if you do something like that. I got a little pamphlet earlier today at the state park that had Native American ruin etiquette or something like that. So there's a few along this stretch that we are driving on right now. This is one of them here, which is really cool. We're going to go to another one in a minute here where you can actually hike up to it and walk in and check it out. It looks pretty cool. We have seen a number of these ruin sites around the West just this year or in the last couple of years, and I think it's pretty amazing. They're over 1,000 years old and still standing there in the cliffs. It's just spectacular. All right, while we're here at the Native American ruins, I just want to cover a couple of things. This is a very, very cool ruin behind us here, and it's really kind of off the grid. So if you are coming out to the desert and you want to visit some of these sites, first of all, you need to be prepared to know how to hike in the desert. So we did about a 1 mile hike to get here, and then we're going to go 1 mile back. I have done a whole nother video on tips for hiking in the desert that I'll put in the description, and I would definitely recommend checking it out because really there are some things you need to know about hiking in the desert. Like, first of all, you're going to have to bring shade because it is boiling hot out here. Second thing is, a lot of these sites are run by the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, and they don't really publicize all that there is to do in that area like the National Park Service. They have kind of a different mission than the National Park Service, which is there for our benefit and enjoyment. The BLM public lands, there's a lot more that you can do on the lands, a lot more freedom that you have, but they're not going to make them super easy for you. You have to do a lot of research to figure it out. So like this particular place here is really not marked off the trail at all. There's no signs for it really. I mean, very, very few. You kind of have to know what to look for. And the other thing about the BLM is sometimes you need a permit to do these things. So it did cost me about, I think, $30 to get my family a permit for this particular hike, and I had to pay for it online and put it on my dashboard as we parked at the parking lot. A lot of these you can pay cash when you arrive at the trailhead for that little permit. So anyway, something to keep in mind there. And then finally, of course, you need to respect these sites here. Don't be touching the walls, you know, don't be climbing into these rooms. Enjoy them from a distance. They're definitely worth checking out, but you gotta be prepared if you're coming out to see some of these sites in the desert.
All right, next at Natural Bridges National Monument is to go on the Scenic Drive. It's just a 9-mile loop one way. So this whole place is just very remote. We're not really seeing a lot of other people, and there's a few different lookouts, 3 or 4 of them, and each of the lookouts has a beautiful view of the, you know, I call it's a slick rock, but it's white. It's not the normal orange color we see out west, and it's really beautiful. And there's a canyon that goes through here, and at each of the lookouts there's like little mini hikes you can hike down further, and there's all these beautiful natural bridges through here that are a big bang for your buck site because you're not having to hike very far or do a lot of steep hiking to see these things, and it's really pretty. And at the last lookout there was a picture of this bridge but with the stars behind it, so this would be an amazing place to go to at night. And I wanted to share a little concept that Matt came up with about just national parks and national monuments. He says that they are in 3 layers. The first layer is seeing the park from the road. The national parks do an amazing job of carving the roads through the landscapes to where you can really see some of the most beautiful scenery just from the road. And I love that, because if mobility is a challenge, then you're able to see a lot. Or even today, it's a pretty hot day. It's over 90 degrees. We're kind of sweating. And so if you didn't want to get out of your car, you'd still be able to enjoy this beautiful national park. And that's the first layer, is just from the road. The next are the groomed trails, where you are able to, where the parks have established trails. They put trailheads places, they put them on maps, and you can get information on these at the visitor centers. And I would say these are trails that most people can do. They usually will range up to like 7 miles or something, but a lot of times they're shorter, they're very groomed, they're well marked. And that's the second layer of the national parks. The third is the backcountry, where you're having to get a permit and really explore and get in the back of the country. And next is to check out a star program. I love the out west here in the desert. There's no light pollution. And so I think a lot of times we get distracted during the day because we're just awed by all the red rock and the really pretty scenery in the background. But at night, it's a whole other view of spectacular things. And if you go to a visitor center, they'll usually have a star map like this for you. And it's a star map of what the sky looks like the month that you're there. So we're here in September, and I'm ready to go look for some stars. Now, we're going to be on the road. I won't get to go to the program tonight, but I have been to star programs that the national parks have put on, and they are amazing. They'll point out the constellations. A lot of times they have telescopes there for you to look through. It's really a great opportunity to see the night sky, how it is really meant to be seen. But if you're not able to attend a ranger program and see that, grab one of these so you can do your own star party.
Okay, the next thing to do is Muley Point. This is on the very southern edge of Utah. In fact, one of the really cool things about this spot is in the distance there, you can see Monument Valley. Monument Valley is literally right on the border of Utah and Arizona. The border runs right through that area there. And you can see those buttes and the mittens in the background. This point is absolutely stunning. I mean, my son called it Grand Canyon Junior. I don't know, it might be better than the Grand Canyon, honestly. This is a really, really amazing viewpoint, because not only do you see Monument Valley in the distance, but if you look down behind these rocks here, you're seeing this gorge, this canyon that's just kind of snaking around here. The crazy thing is, in a minute here, we are about to drive from the top where we are here down to the bottom to the valley floor on a very scary drive that we'll cover in the next segment. But, you know, here's the thing about the Southwest here. It's a lot of driving. We've done a lot of driving today. You know, these things are spread out. They're very far apart. But that's kind of just what you need to do if you want to see some of these just amazing wonders. It's a little metaphor for life, actually, because you spend a lot of time in life doing just boring things and mundane things, interspersed by some excitement in life. And, you know, just traveling a lot of times is the same way. You're spending a lot of time on the road or hiking or, you know, in the airplane or whatever. And then, you know, you get these moments like this and it makes it all worth it.
Next up is to drive the Moki Dugway. This is a road that connects from the Cedar Mesa to Monument Valley. And Matt's been doing his research about it. He was preparing us saying this was going to be as scary as the bird trail at Capitol Reef, which we thought was pretty scary. I rank number 3 on the scariest drives, below Going to the Sun Road and the Beartooth Highway. This one I think maybe comes in at number 4. And it really wasn't too bad, but what it was super beautiful. It's really cool from over here on the Cedar Mesa side, because you can start seeing little glimpses of Monument Valley as you drive along the road. And I'm super excited to get into the actual Monument Valley and see it. But what you'll see on the Moki Dugway is you will see a lot of cool rock formations down in the valley. It's actually surprisingly green for being in the middle of the desert. And you are on a pretty dirt road, but you know, Matt, maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but I would say a car would probably be okay on this dirt road. I mean, not comfortable, but okay. Next up is to eat. When we left Blanding this morning and now we're in Mexican Hat, we have not seen anywhere to eat all day. Even the visitor center did not have any food. And so we were really glad that we brought our picnic supplies, which has worked well for our family on our road trips. It's nice to always have picnic and breakfast supplies ready to go in your car, and then you can eat somewhere local for dinner. And so The nice ranger at Natural Bridges tipped us off that at Mexican Hat there is a good restaurant called the San Juan Inn, and they are famous for their Navajo tacos, and they did not disappoint. The Navajo tacos were huge with lots of veggies and tomatoes on top. We really like the onions on ours, and just yummy Mexican fry bread underneath. And they were so big that 2 people could share each one. Our younger kids shared a basket of chicken strips. Couple little tips is make sure to bring your cash because they did not accept credit cards. So, if you're on your little Western road trip, make sure you have some cash on you. But yeah, great spot to stop for dinner.
Next up is Monument Valley, which we've covered in another video. Click the image icon on your screen to watch that video. Thank you for watching, and until next time, go west, young traveler.